WFM 91.7.
Stories of women and girls who have suffered gender-based violence and harassment are common, and this is why we must work together to end gender-based violence by uprooting the seeds from the community. Tune in to Women Lives Matter on Women Radio 91.7 every Monday at 2 p.m. to lend your voice to the fight against gender-based violence. Women Lives Matter will address gender-based violence in the community. Women Lives Matter will seek the collaboration of your community leaders. Women Lives Matter, Mondays 2 p.m. on Women Radio WFM 91.7. This is an initiative of Women Advocates Research and Documentation Center and supported by Ford Foundation.
Good afternoon and welcome to Women Lives Matter on Women Radio 91.7, Nigeria's only radio station for women and their families. My name is Sumto Titilayo Ajama. Once again, good afternoon and welcome. Globally, according to the World Health Organization WHO's data from 2021, almost 1 in every 3 women have been subjected to intimate partner violence, non-partner sexual violence, or both at least once in their lifetime. The 2018 Nigerian Demographic and Health Survey 2018 NDHS further showed that 30% of females between 15 and 49 years have experienced sexual violence. 64.4% of 45 women interviewed in the workplace have said that they have been beaten by a partner, now be it a boyfriend or a husband, and 56.6% of 48 interviewed market women admitted also to experiencing violence. Now, this basically says that similar interviews carried out in all these different places have yielded similar results, ranging from rape to other several ways such as sexual assault, domestic violence, femicide, early marriage, female genital mutilation, physical abuse, psychological abuse, because that happens too, sexual violence, financial violence, etc., social and religious abuse. Yes, those are things too. Today on Women Lives Matter, I'm speaking with Christiana Mike Taiwo, Executive Director, Liberation Transformation Group, and she's here to enlighten us on mitigating the effects of violence against women and girls. Women Lives Matter is an initiative of Women Advocates Research and Documentation Center in partnership with Women Radio 91.7 and funded by Ford Foundation. Hello, Christiana. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Samson. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It's good to hear from you today. I hope your day has been looking good so far.
Fine. Thank you very much.
All right. The number to call in to contribute is 07000 917 917. You can call in to Women Lives Matter to ask questions, share experiences on violence of whatever form, and of course, discuss with us mitigating the effects of violence against women and girls. Now, this is an especially important subject because every time we talk about it, it's always like, what do people mean when they say violence against women and girls? What do people mean when they say violence from the female point of view? Now, as I've said, you can call in to contribute. The number to call is 07000 917 917. 07000 917 917. Also, you can send in a text or a WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537. Now, Christiana, let's dive right into conversation. What is your definition of violence from the female point of view, from the point of view of a woman?
Okay, from the point of view of a woman, I'll say violence is any act perpetrated against a woman that could cause harm or causes harm of any form.
Any form of violence perpetrated against a woman that could cause harm or any form of harm against that woman.
Any form of harm. Sexual, financial, psychological, emotional, physical, any form of harm against a woman.
Do you find it surprising that when people say violence against women and girls, they only always think of physical violence? Has it ever, have you ever thought about it? Like, why do their minds always go to physical violence?
Yeah, because to them, physical violence is what they can see. Emotional violence, you may not see. Economic violence, is not, is not something that you can easily notice, but it is the victim that knows that she's dying inside.
Absolutely. That's 100% true. And, I'm glad that you're here to lend your voice to this particular conversation because, like it or not, this is something that we hear of every day. So now that you've started hinting at some of these forms of violence, let's really get into what these forms of violence are that can be meted out against women. Because, Christiana, you said any form of harm.
Any form of harm
All right.
against a woman.
So let's get into it. What are these forms of violence against women and girls?
Okay, I'll start with domestic violence. Domestic violence could either be beating, as in battery, hitting a woman in any way. Then I'll also like to look at sexual violence. Sexual violence when we talk about rape, when we talk of sexual assault, sexual harassment in workplaces, then early child marriage. Early child marriage, especially the girl child, is also a violence against the woman. Financial exclusion, denial of access to education, and so on.
I'm taking notes because we cannot miss anyone out. We need to sit down and have this conversation like we mean it. So when you say domestic violence, you've talked about it specifically. You're talking about hitting, you're talking about battery, the one that we can see. Exactly. And then sexual violence, you made reference to rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment, even at the workplace as well. So just in case you're tuned in and you're wondering, sexual harassment at the workplace doesn't exactly constitute as violence. Well, breaking news, you're very wrong because it does constitute as sexual violence. Then early child marriage, you mentioned that, financial exclusion, denial of access to education. Now, off the top of my head, the only question I'm interested in asking right now is what are the factors responsible for these forms of violence against women? Because I don't think anybody in their right mind will want to just wake up one morning and continue to do this to women or do this to women. Let me not even say continue. So, but these cases are existing. So that means people are going through these things.
Yes,
so what factors are responsible for these forms of violence that women go through on a daily basis?
Okay, there are several factors, but I'll mention a few. The first one is cultural practice and beliefs. Cultural practice and beliefs. Gender inequality and gender superiority.
Okay.
Economic dependency. Then political factor. I'll stop there.
Okay, we'll take that one after the other because I honestly want to know more. I honestly want to know more. Cultural practice and religion on some very basic level. I think people understand how cultural practices and how religion plays in. But I want you to give me like a brief summary of how those reflect or tie into the expression of violence against women in reality like we see it. So let's start with cultural and religious beliefs, and then we'll go just briefly because these are important.
Okay, for cultural practices, we grew up with some of these things. So things that have been in existence even before many of us were born, like guiding a concrete slab without knowing the origin, without asking question. This is the way it is done. When you're married, you are married. You don't have a mind of your own. You no longer have an opinion. You cannot contest with your husband, even when you have a better understanding of the subject matter. Cultural practice that believes that a male is superior to female. The boy child is superior to the girl child. When you don't have a male child in some parts of the country, it's as good as you don't have a child. Cultural practices that deny the female from inheriting properties, but yet can use the resources of the female to finance the family. But that female is not entitled to the benefit of that family. But they can get benefits from the husband of that female, getting bride price, traditional rights, collecting this, collecting that. But when it comes to inheritance, she's excluded. Cultural practices that believes that the girl child will earn in the kitchen. So why do I have to send her to school?
Yes, exactly. Very important one. That's a very
Cultural
important one.
practices, and all sort of. And you said something about religion. I do tell people, don't culturalize religion.
Can you say more on that? What do you mean by that? Don't culturalize religion.
Don't culturalize religion. Don't culturalize Christianity. I'll say that. Why? Because people have, how do I put this? People are now giving religion cultural interpretation, which is wrong. People are hiding people are hiding under religion to perpetrate their cultural practice. This is what the Bible says. This is what the Quran says. No, the Bible does not subjugate a woman. The Bible does not preach subjugation. The fact that a woman should submit to the husband should love, does not translate to subjugation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm really glad that we're talking about this, because if we're being honest, there are lots of women out there who have also been conditioned to believe that these things are okay. They've been conditioned to believe that, this is the culture, and they need to bend, or they need to fit into that culture. And also they think that, because the Bible says, Quran says, so they think that, this is what it's supposed to be. When in reality...
Okay, can I give you an example?
Yes, please.
Yeah, we were at a meeting still on the SWOT Foundation project in Babcock, and we had Muslim clerics there. We got another interpretation. The man said, no, this is not what the Quran said, that the Quran does not support subjugation of the woman. And yet you meet another one that will say, this is what it says. You meet another Christian person and will say, no, this is what the Bible says. And yes, you look at this. My own conclusion is that people hide under religion to perpetrate cultural evil.
So that's why your message is don't culturalize religion.
Don't culturalize religion, please. Don't culturalize it.
All right.
If you want to, don't culturalize it. Why? Because cultures that shave the head of the woman when the husband dies, that denies her of inheritance, and that cultures we will not do same to the other sex.
Absolutely not. Yes.
Culture that would deny the woman of access to education. And when there is a need in that family, we want to get resources from that woman. These are things that we should let go. It's not working. It has never worked.
Thank you very much, Christiana. So you've talked about cultural practice and religious practices. Let's hinge a bit on gender inequality and how that is responsible for violence against women.
Okay, gender inequality. An average African man believes that a woman is a lesser citizen.
Okay.
Yeah. Believes that she's a woman. She's inferior. She's just a woman. We see that on a daily basis. Even when you're on steering, when you're driving, a commercial driver will just tell you, when I hit your car, you take it back to your husband to fix for you. Does that mean that woman is not economically stable? The man believes that without your husband, you can do nothing. Gender inequality. You believe that a man is superior, even when that other sex is not intellectually capable. Gender inequality. Even in our constitution, you believe that this position is good for the man, not for the woman. And I said something earlier. How are we sure that men will not still contest for the office of the Minister of Women Affairs?
Well, Christiana, I'm really hoping that things don't degenerate to that point, because then at that point I don't even know what to do. It will be difficult to associate yourself, to identify rather yourself as a woman when that would be hilarious, even to the name Nigeria. So hopefully we'll never get to that point.
So gender inequality, we believe that women are only good for women with Mama Egbe, Mama Patty. When it comes to I mean, when it comes to policy making, when it comes to, I mean, making good decisions, when it comes to implementation of things that has to do with the women, the girl child, everyone in the country, you exclude the woman. No, that is gender inequality. It's imbalance, power imbalance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you also mentioned economic dependency, and there was a final one. Economic dependency is the third one, though.
Yeah, economic dependency, then political factor.
Yes,
and willingness of the government.
Okay. All right, let's touch on economic dependency. I think it ties into the gender inequality that you just talked about.
Well, partly.
Okay.
But economic dependency, maybe I should just go straight and say poverty. Yeah, poverty is a social driver of violence against women. That cannot be overemphasized. Poverty drives violence. I've seen women suffer domestic violence and yet remain in that marriage. They'll tell you, when I leave, who takes care of my children, who pays my house rent, who takes care of my bills, because they are economically unstable. They are not financially capable. They can't lay hold of any resources. So the other party takes advantage of that. You cannot go. You cannot do this. You cannot do that. Let me give you an instance. A man poured petrol on the face of the wife. And we were told, and we met the man, we discussed with him, and he insisted that the woman should leave. Okay, she has to leave. We told her, you have to leave. Why? Because if he pours petrol today, you don't know what he's capable of doing tomorrow. The case was reported, and all that. Eventually, the man never knew she could afford to rent an accommodation. I tell you, not until when the woman left the home, that was when it dawned on him, oh, so this woman can actually leave. She could do that because she was able to lay hold on some finances, on some resources, finances. What if she couldn't afford it? We've seen people die in marriage. You just see that the woman just sleep or she no wake up. You know what's in kill her? Yeah. When I was growing up, I've heard my parents tell us a story of husband and wife who beat themselves. They are used to beating. So this day, the day was going to beat the wife to coma. The neighbors never bother to separate them. They thought that's their usual practice. Not until the woman dies.
No, that is so sad.
Yeah.
That is so sad.
Poverty is a social driver of violence. That is why the economic empowerment of the women is necessary, is important. That is why I tell people, if you have a spouse that is not economically stable, that does not have some measure of finances, that relationship is shaky, is not sustainable. Why? Because even apart from violence, things happen. Somebody may die. We've seen what widows go through in the hand of in-laws, simply because the woman is not economically stable. They take all the property from them. She's left with nothing with the children. But if she's economically stable, she'll be able to find her way. She'll be able to train the children.
Exactly. Thank you, Christiana. I'm sure we can go on and on and on about this. We haven't talked on the political context, but I will do that in a moment. And this is still Women Lives Matter. Women Lives Matter is an initiative of Women Advocates Research and Documentation Center in partnership with Women Radio 91.7 and funded by the Ford Foundation. Today we're talking about mitigating the effects of violence against women and girls. Mitigating the effects of violence against women and girls. My name is Sumto Titilayo Ajama, and I'm here with Christiana Mike Taiwo, Executive Director, Liberation Transformation Group. So if you want to call in to ask Christiana questions, you want to call in to contribute, then please feel free to do that. The number to call is 07000 917 917. 07000 917 917. You can also send text or WhatsApp messages to 0703 175 6537. 0703 175 6537. All right, briefly, Christiana, back to you now. Let's talk very briefly about the political context so that we can get to the later part, which is the part that's talking about mitigating violence.
Okay, political factor, unwillingness of the government. We saw what happened March 1st when gender bills were, thrown out of the table, were voted against. Indigenship, citizenship, the affirmative action,
Please,
and all that.
kindly hold on, Christiana. We have a call coming in. Okay, we lost that call. Please call back if you can. Once again, the number is 0703 175 6537 for text. For call-in, please, 07000 917 917 is the number to call, 07000 917 917. Thank you. All right, please, Christiana, go ahead.
Okay, I was speaking about the unwillingness of the government. Indigenship, citizenship. If a woman is married, at least to another tribe or outside of where she was born, she should be able to, let me say, nationalize. I'm just using that.
Okay.
You're from Ogun State, you're married to somebody from Ondo or somebody from Enugu. You've lived there, you've given birth to children, you've been there for 5 to 10 years. She should be able to benefit. She should be able to identify with the people there. That is number one. Number two, when a woman is married to a foreigner, what was passed on the 1st of March says the spouse cannot become the citizen of Nigeria. But if the man marries a woman outside of Nigeria, the wife automatically becomes a citizen of Nigeria.
Yes.
That's unfair. That's an abuse. That's violence against women. So that's why I said unwillingness on the part of the government. The affirmative action that Nigeria signed is yet to be implemented. Unwillingness of the part of the government. Let's have this affirmative action from the federal to the state to the local level, elective position, appointive position. Across all parties, across all ministries and parastatals. Let this affirmative action, at least let's start from there. I think the 30-35% affirmative action, let's start from there. And that should be the minimum.
Absolutely.
And that is what we are saying. Nigeria is not tapping into the resources, the economic resources of the women. Nigeria is not tapping into the resources of the women. The intellectual capacity and the capability of Nigerian women is something that the federal government of this nation needs to tap into if truly we want to have a sustainable economy.
Thank you very much, Christiana. I like how you put that. I really like how you put that because a lot of people have said it that if Nigeria wants to be better, Nigeria needs to empower its women and take advantage of the capacity and capability of these women. Not everybody that looks at women thinks that women are capable. But the truth of the matter is we are. And as long as the men continue to occupy these positions, it will be very worrisome as regards the issues of women because men don't necessarily see the bigger picture when it comes to issues of women. Now, now that I've mentioned that, because I really needed to do that, now that I've mentioned that and we've talked about these forms of violence and some of the ways that these forms of violence are meted out against women and some of the factors responsible for them, let's now talk about the impact. Because for us to say mitigating the effects, we're talking about the effect, the impact. Let's talk about what are the impact or what is the impact of violence on women, regardless of the type of violence, whether economic, whether sexual. What is the kind of impact that a woman would have to go through or suffer from as a result of violence?
The first one, deaths. We've had seen cases.
You just had to start from the biggest one.
Yes, honestly, deaths. We've seen cases of domestic violence leading to deaths. We've seen cases of economic violence leading to deaths when the woman does not have economic resources to take care of her health. Deaths, loss of dignity, She suffers low self.
Hello, Christiana, are you still there? Can you hear me? All right, this is still Women Lives Matter, and we're still discussing mitigating the effects of violence against women and girls. This is especially important in terms of conversation because we most definitely cannot sit back and let violence against women become normalized to the point where nobody even cares about it, to the point where it doesn't come up in conversation anymore, to the point where we close our eyes or we turn a blind eye. That's the phrase. We turn a blind eye to the situations of violence against women and girls. We cannot stay that way. And this is why we're having this conversation today, talking about mitigating the effects of violence against women and girls. All right, I'm still talking to Christiana Mike Taiwo, Executive Director, Women Liberation Transformation Group. And we're back to you, Christiana. You're talking about the impact of violence on women, regardless of the type of violence.
Yeah. I've mentioned that. I've mentioned loss of dignity.
Yes.
Loss of health. Loss of finance. Illiteracy. Poverty. Yeah. Violence against women. As poverty drives violence, poverty is also an impact.
Okay.
It's a two-in-one. Sexually transmitted diseases. Unwanted pregnancy. I was speaking to some teenage girls in our office this week, and I told them, when a teenager becomes pregnant in school, what will the school authority do to her? Something. Can you guess?
I mean, I can guess. I mean, we've heard of stories like that where some of them have been suspended or expelled.
They'll ask the girl to stay back at home, and yes, the boy continue in school.
That's a sad reality.
Sad reality. The girl child stays back at home because she's pregnant, and the boy that impregnated her continues with his education. If care is not taken, that girl will forever remain in that state. After the pregnancy, if she's from a poor home, they will send her to the boy's family. She becomes their slave. And they may even tell her, don't worry, he will marry you. So after the boy is educated, I can assure you he will never come back to marry that girl because she's already an illiterate. She already has a child. So who will be responsible for education? You know, and it continues like that. And you know what that does? The cycle of poverty continues.
Absolutely. Ripple effect.
The cycle of poverty continues. Sexually transmitted diseases. Many of them don't even have money to treat themselves. And we could also see the impact in the economy, in the way the economy is driven. We saw it the way COVID-19 palliatives was handled. If we have a good number of women at the national level, I'm very sure the resources that was spent on COVID-19 that was not really felt at grassroots level, I mean, that wouldn't have happened. I was privileged to be at a venue where the palliative, was being distributed in one of local governments in Lagos State. I saw the way it was handled. I shed tears. Women are naturally generational thinker. They will not do things haphazardly.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you. And I like that you brought that particular point up because it speaks to leadership, which you've also made a point, You've spoken about that already. And you've also talked about death, loss of dignity, illiteracy, and the health aspect is the sexually transmitted diseases. Then in terms of finance now, when we say violence and we say finances, again, it's hard sometimes for people to put two and two together because they're like, it doesn't exactly fit in. So what is the impact of violence on women when it comes to finance? How does finance become a repercussion of violence?
Okay, a woman that totally depends on the spouse for livelihood. I'm not saying it's wrong for your spouse to take care of you. It's not bad. I love that. But as much as good as that may be, the woman should also have what is her own. Because if the spouse suddenly dies, number one, and the family takes everything away from the woman, what is going to happen? That's one. Number two, if the spouse suddenly decides not to give her money for food that will take care of her and the children, how will she cope? That is two. Number three, there are women who even have some form of economic stability, and the spouse, because of gender superiority, decide to wreck the business. Loss of finance.
Very true. Very true. I think we can see the link now. We can see the link now. So it is definitely something that needs to be considered. Okay. 29 minutes to 3 on Women Radio 91.7. We're still talking about mitigating the effects of violence against women and girls. And believe me, this is an important conversation. Women Lives Matter is an initiative of Women Advocates Research and Documentation Center, Ward C, in partnership with Women Radio 91.7 and funded by Ford Foundation. Call us on 07000 917 917 or send a text or a WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537. I'll take that again. To call 07000 917 917, send in a text or a WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537. If you're listening online or if you want to listen online, you can also listen via the website www.wfm917.com or download the mobile app WFM917 on Google Play Store or on iOS. Now, coming back to you, Patricia. Now, let's hit the nail on the head and talk about mitigating the effects of these violence. We've talked about what these effects are, and you've really explained how far they go, like how far-reaching these effects are. So what can be done to mitigate the effects of violence against women from a societal point of view? What are the things that need to be put in place? Measures, structures, community. What are the things that need to be done to mitigate the effect of violence against women and girls?
Okay, so before I speak on the mitigating the effects, there is a point I left out when you were asking, when we were speaking on the impacts.
Okay.
I left out of school children. Out of school children is an impact, is a result of violence against women. Out of school children.
I'm going to go straight there and just say how though?
How? When a woman is not economically balanced, not economically stable, and something happens in the family, she can no longer cater for the children.
And they have to drop out of school.
They have to drop out of school, number one. Number two, even if the man did not die, even if they both have, even if the man, is not dead, and the wife, the other partner is not working, she's not economically stable, and something happens to their source of, resources, the single source of resources that the family depends on.
Again, out
the
of school
so-called
children.
provider can have nothing to fall back on. The woman who is not economically empowered will not be able to shoulder that responsibility. So the children will drop out of school.
See,
We have seen that. Yes.
I can imagine. And there's so many out of school.
So many. We just registered 8 in school.
And we're still talking about 18 to 20 million out of school children. That is part of recent statistics.
Yes, we just registered 8. 2 in private school, 6 in government-owned school. Their parents are not dead.
That's a sad situation. Now, because we've talked about that, I'm now talking about mitigating the effects. Now, what can we do, or what can be done to just to reduce this effect? Obviously, we can tell that some of the effects are not going to go away just like that if concrete, sustainable measures are not being done. But what can be done? Let's start with that. What are those things that can be done to reduce the effects of violence against women and girls?
Once we go back to political will, the first point, the willingness of the government. Willingness of the government to take advantage of the intellectual capability of the woman. The willingness of the government to financial inclusion of the woman. financial inclusion of the woman, educating the girl child. When you educate a girl child, you have educated it's just as good as educating a nation. Because an educated woman who is financially stable will make informed decisions.
Very true.
Willingness of the government, financial inclusion, educating the girl child, then the affirmative action. We'll see, go back to it.
Yes, we have to.
Affirmative action, then change in our cultural belief system. We need to engage traditional leaders at grassroots level. We need to engage them more. They need to be sensitized on the effects of violence on their community, the impacts of violence on the development of their community. They need to understand. Some of them don't know. They are just guiding a concrete slab that someone puts there without asking questions. So we need to drive the information down to the grassroots level, just like Ford Foundation is doing through this project.
Yes.
So the traditional leaders, the religious leaders, community leaders at all level, at grassroots level specifically, should be informed. They need to know that some of these things that they are guiding, some of these things that they see as beliefs are no longer applicable. They will not move the nation forward. They need to change. But the first is still the political will from the government.
So you think that... Okay, let me rephrase this question because it's coming to me in all sorts of different ways. So do you suggest, and I'm asking this as your recommendation now, being that you're in the field, you've experienced this, you see the pain that these women go through when they have to suffer violence, would you say that it should start first with the community leaders ensuring that they make moves to mitigate violence, to reduce violence within their communities, then we can translate little by little into the larger picture of political will?
Okay, yes, I will agree with that. Yes.
So,
I'll agree with that. But I will also say it's vice versa. Why? Because if there is political will up there, it becomes easy to drive it down to the grassroots.
Okay. Very true. Very true,
That's my
actually.
point. If there is political will, it becomes easy to drive it down to the grassroots. If the person at the hands of affair does not believe in girl-child marriage, it becomes easy to drive it down to those practices at the grassroots. If the person there at the hands of affair does not believe in the female genital mutilation, it becomes easy to drive it down. If the person up there believes in financial inclusion and the economic empowerment of the woman, it becomes easy to drive it down. So I think it's going to be both the bottom-up and the top-down approach together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. See, I like how you just analyzed that, because truth be told, we cannot just be talking about... A lot of time people always ask, what is the government doing? What is the government doing? What is the government doing? And then you're asking yourself, this government, they cannot do everything. But at the same time, they need to play their role. So you've talked about, as much as we can acknowledge that the government can't do anything, can't do it all, let me put it that way, which is why the community leaders have to step in, traditional leaders have to step in to fulfill that bottom gap that exists. We cannot still say, oh, because the government can't do it, or they should not now do anything, which is what you're talking about, both relationships coming together, bottom up and top down.
Top down.
Absolutely.
There's full participation of the women also.
Okay.
Full participation of the women, both in political space, both at civil service level, across the ministries, across MDAs. Full participation of the women. The woman should not be left behind. They should stop giving us mama party leader, position. They should stop giving us the office of the women affairs. What stops the woman from being the one in charge of the budgeting, budgetary planning? She knows the people there. She knows how it pinches them. so she's able to drive it down. Okay, let me give you an example. I was in a meeting last week, and the facilitator asked, a very simple question. She said, when you heard of kidnapping, what is your greatest fear? He asked the men, and they said, okay, maybe death, maybe their family, maybe this. And she asked the women last. All of us said rape. All the men in that room never thought of rape. And here in Nigeria, across all the security agencies, they are all headed by men. What is the stake of the women? When they are debating and deliberating about the insecurity state of the nation, where is the position of the woman who suffers rape, who suffers the trauma, the psychological abuse? What is her input? What is her stake? When we have men across all security agencies. Are you saying we don't have women who are security personnel, who have the security intelligence in this country? I think the government needs to look into that.
Absolutely.
So that they'll be able to plan well. If we truly want to combat this insecurity, I think we need to bring the women to the drawing board, because they suffer a lot. Go to the IDP camps. How many men are there? How many children are there? What's the percentage of the women? When bandits are going to bomb, when they are going to burn, when they are going to do all sorts of, the men may quickly escape, but the woman will not want to leave, thinking of the children, thinking of the baby.
And at the end of the day, they are the ones who suffer the effect the most.
Yes, they suffer the effect most. And I make bold to say, the women are, we have the highest, we are more. Our percentage in this nation is more. And I'll say this, we are the majority. No nation make decision for the majority in the absence of the majority. It's not going to work.
100%. So that definitely needs to be worked on. Now, still bringing it down to the community, still talking about community, the community approach, because we have mentioned that is of the essence. So what measures would you say are being put in place by women chiefs and other community leaders? And I say women chiefs because you just mentioned that no decision can be made in the absence of the majority for the majority if they're not there. So what measures are being put in place by women chiefs and other community leaders to reduce these effects of violence against women?
Okay, for women chiefs, we as an organization, we presently work in 2 communities here in Shomolu and Bariga LCDA, and we have women chiefs, as part of our community response team. They are part of community response team members, and they have been carrying out awareness and sensitizing people in their community on violence against women and girls, gender-based violence, and all sorts. Of course, in Bajulai community, we have Chief Mrs. Olufojude, that's the Yaloja General of Shomolu Market.
Okay.
We have the Ashoju Oba, that's Chief Mrs. Omobalale Sulaiman. She's the Ashoju Oba of Shomolu Land, and also the Yaloja of Alarape Market, and a number of them like that. Then community leaders, we have ballets, who also, of course, they have the parts in their policies, and they have pledged their support to fight against violence against men and girls. They have pledged their support. We have the ballet of Bajulai community and the ballets of Bariga LCDA, which is being led by High Chief Brimo. They are in support of it.
That's very good progress. That sounds very good. That tells me that there's a lot of progress going on, and there's a lot of potential when it comes to really eradicating the effects of violence against women. So we're going to wrap up in a little bit, but there are 2 questions that I have left that I just have to ask you. Now, what structures and legislations are currently in place as we speak, Christiana, as we speak now, to really combat violence against women and girls and also encourage survivors to speak out? Now, this is a kind of a 2-part question. What strategies or what structures and legislations are in place to fight violence against women and girls? And the part B of it is to also encourage them. So it's one thing to want to fight violence against women and girls, but if you're not aware of these individual cases and women are not encouraged enough to speak out, then we're kind of hitting a brick wall. So what structures are in place that can fight against women, the violence against women and girls, and also encourage them to speak out so as to get justice?
Okay, we have the VAP law, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition law. We have the Lagos State Domestic Violence law. Of course, I give kudos to Lagos State. Lagos State is trying to make Lagos, free of violence.
Yes.
But they still need to do more. And it is not enough to have this legislation, like I said. The willingness of the top to drive the message down. Simplify this law for them, just like what they have done to simplify the VAP Act. We have it in Yoruba language. Simplify the law for people to understand Yoruba language, Nupe language, Hausa language, Igbo language, the Efik. Let everybody understand it so that even the women will understand our rights.
Yes, 100%.
So the law needs to be simplified. Then we have the domestic violence and is it DVRST now?
DSV.
We have it there that responds to cases. We have several organizations, civil society organizations that respond to cases, that are being reported to them. We have Office of the Public Defender, and the likes. But the government still needs to do more, especially for people at grassroots community.
Definitely.
We have Office of the Public Defender in Surulere. How many people at the grassroots level knows about it? It is not enough to have the structure. The people that the structure is meant for need to understand, need to know that the structure exists so that they can lay claim on the benefits of that structure. If, for instance, I don't understand English, and you are presenting Lagos DV law to me in English language, what does that translate to me to?
It will have no meaning to you. It will have no meaning to you.
It has no meaning. So the willingness of the government to drive it down to people at the grassroots level that suffer most of the violence that we have mentioned. And cases are not being reported because of cultural beliefs, stigmatization, shaming the victim, and letting go of the perpetrator.
Thank you very much, Christiana. So this final question is especially in line with the fact that a lot of these violent situations that women find themselves in are situations that they definitely need to leave, but in some cases they find themselves not being able to do that. So I'm going to just ask you this. Do you think that violence against women by male counterparts or by their spouses, do you think this is another way of male domination in the society? Do you agree with that school of thought or do you disagree?
I agree. Of course, there's a patriarchal system. I agree. An average African man believes that the world is meant for the men. So even if the woman is dying, even if she has an idea that will benefit the male counterparts, she's not allowed to speak.
And that's really sad.
And that is why we are where we are today as a nation.
Well, Christiana, I do have to say that you have made a lot of points, and mitigating the effect of violence against women and girls is just one step in the right direction. We really need to shoot for complete elimination of violence against women and girls. So to a large extent, the larger conversation is directed at elimination of violence against women and girls. And I really have to appreciate what Women Advocates Research and Documentation Center, and of course in partnership with Women Radio and the Ford Foundation for putting this initiative together. This is definitely something that requires a lot of awareness so that more women actually understand their rights and understand that their lives matter as well. Do you have any final words, Christiana?
Well, I would say to the federal government of Nigeria in particular, the Nigerian women are the majority in this nation. decisions cannot be made, or let me say sustainable decision that will lead to sustainable development should not be made in the absence of the majority. That's the final word.
Thank you so much, Christiana. I really must appreciate you for spending time with us today on Women Lives Matter. Thank you very much. And I'm really hoping that things work out and Nigerians actually heed to some of the warnings and some of the points that you've made for a better Nigeria in general. Thank you very much once again, Christiana. Please enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you.
People do need to be more enlightened on violence against women so as to consciously build a society where violence against women is completely condemned and not seen as a norm of any kind and for any reason, because the lives of women really matter and need to be fought for. Mitigating the effects of violence against women and girls is something that is doable and something that must be involved, something that must be done to basically make Nigeria grow for the benefit of both men and women and everyone in particular. So thank you very much for tuning in today to Women Lives Matter. Thank you very much to my guest, Christiana Mike Taiwo, Executive Director, Women Liberation Transformation Group, and to you as well for tuning in to Women Lives Matter today. Thank you to the producer, Esther Alaribe, and Executive Director, Tomo Okewale Shunaya. Women Lives Matter is broadcast every Monday at 2 p.m. on Women Radio 91.7. Let us join hands together to end violence against women. Once again, Women Lives Matter is an initiative of Women Advocates Research and Documentation Center, Ward C, in partnership with Women Radio 91.7 and funded by Ford Foundation. Till we meet again next week, my name is Sumto Titilayo Ajamma. Good afternoon.
WFM 91.7.